Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to do this little interview because obviously training Jan for the race that she'd chosen was quite an epic affair. I think for many people it's a bucket list race. It's not your standard run of the mill, well catered Ironman or similar. So it was very challenging for us both to devise a program of training and stick to it to really achieve what Jan wanted to achieve. So Jan, if you want to go ahead and just tell us what your main goal race was for this year and explain it to people, describe what it involved and where it's based and that sort of thing, please.
Sure, yeah. So the race is called Celtman. It's part of the X-Tri series. I think the three big ones in that X series are Celtman, Norseman and Swissman. They were kind of the originals. And then there's a few more now that are kind of being added to the list. But Celtman is, I mean, for me, it's a very special race. It's based up in the Highlands of Scotland, a place called Torridon, and it's just one of the most spectacular places. So the mountain ranges nearby are sort of the Leotac Range and the Anshelac Range, which are just, classic Munros. So it starts there. It's 3.8 kilometre swim. I think it's slightly less than that, actually, about 3.4 kilometre swim. In Loch Shieldaig, so it's a sea loch. I mean, the start of it is just something that is very special. So you get on a bus to start off with at 4 o'clock, and everybody loads up on the bus in your wetsuits. You can't take anything with you. All your support crew then are on the other shore, and the bus drives round and drops you off at the on the other side. You can't see Shieldaig or anything, or where you get out of the water. And everybody just stands in this field of sheep shit, just waiting for the start. And then they have a Celtic band that starts. So the Celtic band and the Celtic drummers, and they just start up now about 4:30 in the morning. The race starts at 5, so at 4:30 in the morning they start. And it's just this massive noise. They then burn the actual. They set fire to the actual logo in a field. So that then sort of keeps all the midges away, because the midges are horrific at that point. I bet they are. Yeah. But just, the atmosphere is just fantastic. Everybody's there to finish the race. You're right. It's not really about, the time or, to a certain extent, it's not even about the blue shirt or the white shirt. It's a tough race, whichever shirt you get. And it's all about that getting to the finish. And it's just an incredibly supportive sort of family. I mean, they do call it a family, and it is quite unique.
So how many athletes are on the start line? And was it different this year?
Yeah, so typically they only allow 250 in all the X-Tri events. It's only 250, and it's a ballot to get in. And this year, because they couldn't have any of the international athletes, it was a reduced number. I think it was 170 in it this year. And they did open up a few more slots just to the Scottish competitors, actually. So there was a lot of Scottish guys in there this year, yeah, and they're pretty hardcore. So and then the races, So I mean, do you want me to talk through the sort of the race itself?
Talk about the bike ride. I mean, just describe what it's like with the scenery, and I'm presuming roughly what the elevation is, and then the same on the run.
Yeah, so I mean, the swim itself is quite unique, because it typically it's full of jellyfish, and I think they initially it was almost hidden that there was jellyfish in there, but now it's kind of like, oh, it's a very big jellyfish infested, so it is, but they swim. They all sit at about a meter below the surface, so you can actually swim, but then it's just absolutely congested with jellyfish. But this year, because it was so cold, it was like 10 degrees this year, there was no jellyfish there, which was kind of the up and the down, if you like. But the swim itself is point to point, which is quite unique, I think, for a swim. And it is, you do feel like you're very isolated, because it's such a small field. It's you lose people in a sea swim anyway, so you feel quite isolated. And you've literally got to swim from island to island to before you can actually see the finish. And I think for me, an hour is about right. After that, I'm just too cold, and you can see people coming out, and they really struggle if you do much more than an hour on the cold. But the beauty about this race is you've got support. Sorry.
Before you carry on, because we were talking about obviously the help from the support crew that you've got, which have helped you not just to to do the race itself, but in your preparation and also in your travel plans and everything up there. But interestingly, you need quite a bit of help getting out of your wetsuit and actually getting going and onto your bike, don't you? So I think that would be interesting just to tell people, you know, this process that you've tried to sort of hone over a few years of streamlining this, you know, exit from the water and getting through your first transition and onto your bike. So just explain, like you did to me, what the process is and who's helping you.
I mean, to be honest, for me, I don't really remember much of that process because somebody else does it all for me. I mean, I am literally that cold at that point that I need, you know, if I stand up, I fall over. So my partner, I mean, he's 6'6", so he literally oiks me under his shoulder and sort of like just drags me out. But we have perfected warming me up as quick as possible, which is a flask of hot water, not hot water, but a flask of warm water down the front of the wetsuit and a flask of warm water down the back of the wetsuit. And then literally they just, I mean, I have like this guy, so he sort of sits me down. We've got a deck chair and the wetsuit's off and the kit's on. Before I know it, I'm sort of on my bike being pushed out of transition. You know? It's like not really an option not to bike or anything. You know, you're sort of on your bike and out you go. And I take, again, it's really weird, but I take a little bottle of warm green tea with me. Because I find that getting something warm into my stomach really early just warms me up massively. And then at the first option where I see my crew, I just fling the bottle basically and get rid of it. So
and are you eating in that first transition? Is somebody feeding you something, or do you just get on your bike and then let your stomach settle?
I'm literally, because on my bike it's the hot fluids that's most important to me at that point. So I just get hot fluids and then I try and eat sort of within the first hour, I guess, as most people do. But the bike itself, again, it's quite unique. It's one circular route basically. A lot of the X-Tris are point to point, which is why you absolutely need your support crew. Because like Norseman finishes 200 kilometers away from where it starts, so you know it's not feasible to do it any other way. But the actual Celtman, the sort of the transition from bike to run is about 40 kilometers away from the start. So again, you know, it's just not feasible to do it without a support crew really. But your support crew just follow you around. And I mean, the beauty about that is it's so supportive that, you know, everybody's cheering everybody, and you sort of end up with this, you know, you end up in a group of probably about you know, a mile of where there's maybe 5 or 6 riders. So all their support crews are kind of in and around where you are. So you kind of get to know everybody as you're riding around. But I mean, classic examples are there was a car that broke down, and you know the guys organize it, put out on the Celtman forum, oh, if anybody can see number 132 or whatever, please support, their cars broke down. You know, and they just then get the best support ever, you know.
Everybody's keen to help out.
Exactly that. So you can pick up bottles and you can pick up food. That's a nice thing about it. You're not having to go completely loaded with, you know, enough food and drink for 200 kilometers. They can sort of provide that support for you, really. I mean, you know, and it is absolutely an honest race. There's no reason to draft, you know, and there is no drafting at all, you know. I mean, if somebody's coming past you, clearly they're faster than you, so you know, you just
and what about your bike setup then? So how did you go about setting your bike up? Were you on a road bike, or what was your gearing sort of? What
interestingly, I've tried, I started off, I did it a couple of years ago, and I did it on a road bike with just tri-bars. And then I've slowly moved to a tri-bike, and this year I even used deep rims, which I haven't used before, and all of that was fine. It was perfectly. I mean, so it's 2,000 meters of climbing, but it is over 200k. So, and most of the climbing is kind of in the first 100 to 120k, because it's coastal path. You know, you're kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. But I mean, but that coastal path is just. It's an unbelievable. I think Claire Holloman's riding it at the moment, and she's sending some pictures up on the Facebook, and it is just the most stuff. I mean, unfortunately, you don't get much chance to stop and look at it, but you know, the beaches are beautiful. That coastline is stunning. As I say, you come in through the Munros and the Anschluck Mountains and stuff, and it's very, very special.
That first section where you were going north, sort of northeasterly, following the coast around. Is that part of the North Coast 500? Is that the bit you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, literally right from Shieldaig through up to sort of Dundonald is sort of the North Coast 500. Yeah,
Right.
it's part
So
of that.
yeah,
Yeah, and
amazing,
it's very
amazing.
special.
And then I've been following you on the app and obviously seen that you were making pretty good time through the first half of the bike ride at least. So even though you're saying it was quite hilly, what we'd noticed, or what I'd noticed having followed you, was that it was kind of at least a cross tailwind, if not a tailwind, for large sections of the early portion of the bike.
Yeah.
But what I was a bit worried about was seeing that basically about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way around the ride, you basically turned west, and the last 40 or 50 kilometers, I'm not sure what it was just directly west back to your start point and or your transition, and it was just like a block headwind all the way.
Yeah, no, it was completely a block headwind. And I think it was interesting because I mean, I kind of gauge myself at about 8 hours for that ride. So if I can come in under 8 hours, I give myself a reasonable chance of getting to the cutoff before the 11 hours. And I think it is normally front end weighted. So you normally do the first 100K sort of quite a lot slower than the second 100. The second 100 is typically faster. But I knew this time it wasn't going to be like that. And I mean, I think I hit the 100K mark in about 4 hours or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is gonna hurt. So but yeah, I hit that block headwind, and it was about 28 miles an hour. And it literally took me 2 hours to do that last. And you know, that's the thing that plays with the mind, you know, because you've done it so well up until that point. It is literally just, you know, getting down into the tuck position as small as possible and just keep doing what you're doing. And you just have to keep telling yourself that over and over and over again.
And
at
how
that
did
point,
you manage that, from a sort of psychological point of view? Was it something you just took in your stride, or were you trying to use a certain tactic to get through that last sort of thing mentally?
I think for me, the tactic is, you know, it is, you can see where you're going, you know, but it's just like, you know, just you'll just get there. It's kind of my general, you know, if I just keep moving, I am going to get there. So just don't worry about it. You know, don't push any harder than you're going, because you've still got this big long run to do, but you know you've got to push. you know you've got to get there. So you know, there's no point in worrying about it, no point in getting angry with it. Just get down and get on with it, really, is kind of where my head gets to.
And a lot of people
at that point, there's a lot of people coming backwards.
Yeah, oh, of course there is. Yeah, especially with such a tough finish. So were you pacing yourself based on experience and sort of just perceived effort, like this is as hard as I can go with this distance left? Or were you very much relying on some of the metrics that we use week in, week out, with the heart rate and the power? You know, what was your main sort of guiding factor for your pacing of the bike ride?
I think my main guiding factor is always feel, but it's always backed up with numbers. So I kind of bob between heart rate and power. So I won't let either one go in excess of what I know I can manage. So, you know, if I know sort of my heart rate's creeping up, and you know, the sort of I just sort of think, no, I either have to back off or I can go a bit harder. And generally for me, it's I can probably go a bit harder because I know I can hold this a little bit longer. But the last final section is also, the last 6 miles are just this monster descent into Kinloch. So again, in your head, it's like, it's not 40K, it's 34K. And every time you take a few Ks off, you're like, right, it's not that, it's this, you know. It kind of, and I know that at that point you're going to gain a bit more time. So
and just tell us a bit about your nutrition then. So because it's such a long race, and generally what we're probably exercising in is kind of low zone 2, whether that's heart rate or power, we're very much at an endurance level. That does mean that we can open up the scope of what we can eat and what we can digest, and because it's such a long race, we probably can start to utilize more whole foods or real foods, as well as the nutrition products which we often rely on in shorter races. So just give us a little overview of what your sort of strategy was, or what foods you relied on, or drinks through the ride.
I'm not too sure this is going to go down very well if somebody hears my food strategy. So I mean, my fluids is dead simple. I use Talk original, so there's no flavor in it at all, and then I use the you know, the pH tabs, the 1,000 milligrams, because I know I'm a salt secretor. So I aim to take half a bottle an hour, which just works for me perfectly. So you know, a full bottle in 2 hours is pretty much good for me. And that, you know, at that point I'm not dehydrated or anything. So that sort of works for me. My food strategy is I tend to eat as much as possible on the bike, knowing that I won't be eating very much on the run at all. So I have cheese and pickle wraps,
right, nice.
which go down very well. So I tend to have like 2 or 3 cheese and Branston pickle in a wrap, and I eat them. Malt loaves are the other ones that I eat a lot. And then I sort of, as I get more bored, I think, or I find it more difficult to eat, I then move into more of the you know, like the sort of like, what's the word? They're the naked bars. I eat some of the naked bars. So stuff that's not sweet, I tend to try and avoid most things that are sweet, knowing that when I hit the bike, I'm pretty much going to be just on Coke, sugar, and you know, bombs and things like that, really.
No, I think that's well documented in things like ultra running, isn't it? You know, people rely on real foods. Also, the fatty mouth feel from the cheese is quite comforting. It feels like you're eating something proper. Over a race, as the length that you're doing as well, for this sort of event, you really want to try to keep hunger at bay as well. And a lot of the sports products are designed to go through your stomach very quickly. That's the idea. They want to get to your colon and your intestines to be absorbed as quickly as possible. But actually, there's something to be said for just keeping your stomach a little bit full. And as you know, obviously on the bike, where you're not jostling around too much and your heart rate's under control, it's a good time to eat properly. And as you've said, if we can get to the run in as neutral sort of a calorie balance as possible, and feeling like we've eaten pretty well, just from a psychological and morale point of view, it's quite nice. And I know personally from the Ironman races and stuff I've done, you have that much sugary sweet products by the end of the race. It's just your stomach feels horrendous, and even for a couple of days after, I don't feel very great. And I think it's just that, you know, that build up of quick acting sugary sort of substances. So no, I think what you've done is absolutely fine. Obviously we can't recommend that for faster racing, because it won't get where it's needed quick enough, and actually you might well bring it back up the other way as your body struggles to digest it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that sort of strategy of slow digestible food and things like that for the racing that you're doing.
And my real treat, I think, when I come into transition is rice pudding.
Yep.
Don't ask me why, but somehow I found that, like, easily, you know, it goes in, I can eat it very quickly, and it fills me up, and then I can just, once I've started the run, then I am pretty much on to,
I think any products, or most of the rice-based products, are fairly inert, and your stomach will manage them really, really well. I don't think there's any or many people in the world that have any sort of intolerances to rice. So as a carbohydrate source, you know, rice cakes or anything that's been made from rice, obviously with the rice pudding and it having some milk products in it, some people might not agree with that so well, but no, I think that's again another good choice. And if it's something you enjoy and you look forward to, it also breaks up the race for you as well. You know, it's like, I get this reward at such and such a point. So you're getting off the bike. Are you on schedule? And also just explain to people what your schedule was, because what the main goal of the race was.
Yeah, so the main goal for me personally is they have an 11-hour cutoff at what they call T2A. So the run is split up into two sections. The first section is what everybody does, and then when you get into T2A, if you get there before 11 hours, then you're allowed to do the high route, and if you get there after 11 hours, you do the low route. And they're very, very strict with it. So the bell rings bang on 11 hours, and at that point, anybody coming in through the gate is basically on the low route. Now, you know, that doesn't diss the low route. The low route is beautiful and it's tough, but for me personally, you know, it is about trying to get, you know, doing my damnedest really to try and get that blue shirt and get the 11 hours. And the first, typically, you know, if I can get out on the bike within an hour, the bike's at 8 hours, it gives me 2 hours to do the run, but that doesn't include the transitions, and they typically take 4 to 8 minutes each. So I mean, my support crew, basically, I think they said, you've got time, but you do have to run. It's like, right, okay. So, and you can have a support runner on the first section, and then you have to have a support runner for the second section. Now, personally, for me, it's a massive advantage having a runner with you on both sections, because the course isn't that easy to follow, and they tie bits of white tape to trees. And I mean, at this point, my head is just looking down. That's all I'm doing. Yeah. So looking up and looking around for, little bits of tape is just like, oh man. So it's great to have somebody in front of you that's just doing that, looking for that thing. So the first section's about 17 kilometers, 18 kilometers. The vast majority of it is off road. It's pretty boggy. It's not the easiest run. But again, I think if you do just keep running, then the 2 hours for me is achievable. It's got one big climb in it, and then after that, again, I kind of know if I crest that hill, it's downhill, and it's pretty much a long trail. Which is, again, sort of plays to my strengths really. And then you pop out onto the road, and you've got about 2 to 3 kilometers on the road before you get to T2A. And you can see, so the first instance you can't see anything, and it is quite daunting if you don't know where you're going, because you sort of think when you get to the road, I'm almost at T2A, and you're not. You've got this quite long road section. And there's just so many people on the road, though, just sort of either telling you, they're like, if you keep running, you're gonna do it. If you keep running, you're gonna do it. You're like, I'm running. And yeah, we came in with 3 minutes to spare, so I was delighted, to be honest. Absolutely delighted with I know it's close, but it was good.
It's the right side, though, isn't it? We talked about the use of the sort of run support, obviously from a navigation point of view, because obviously you're tired and maybe mentally you'd make mistakes if you were left to your own devices. So you had a runner for the first section, and then you swapped to a different person who helped you with the high route with the second section. That's right, isn't it? And, I think then obviously you presumably just devolve responsibility to them pretty much to do the navigation, and that you'll just call out the pacing if they're going a bit quick, or if you need them to, whatever, to change the pace or something. So you're just keeping a bit of control of your speed, but I'm presuming you're giving up to them the sort of navigational duties, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guy that sort of takes me up the mountain has done it sort of 2 or 3 times before as well. So, I think you've got a lot of confidence in them for sure. And he kind of knows my pacing, because we sort of run together anyway. And what's good about him is he knows how hard I can go. So he doesn't sort of, if I whinge, he kind of just ignores it. It's sort of he'll sort of pace it just to the point, I think, that he knows I can go at that pace. And I mean, even just going up the mountain, the mountain side of it for me is probably my strength, and we certainly picked up 5 or 6 places on the way up, and just 30 odd places on the way back down as well, which was just through running, really, because there's a lot of getting to that gate, and once you've got through that gate, it's almost like the pressure's off, and it is to a certain extent if you want it to be. But I think it's also, for me, it's about getting to the finish. Once you've got through that, the next stage is then, right, now I've got to get to the finish, sort of thing, as quick as I can.
So I think we mentioned when we had a chat about obviously the pacing strategy, because you come off the bike, you've got 2 hours or somewhere in that region to get to what was almost not the end of your race physically, but mentally, for your goal. Your main goal was to get to that point where you've still got maybe 5 hours of racing to go after that, but you wanted to get there in sub 11. What was your pacing strategy to kind of treat that as a finish line, and almost like positively split the run, so that you're going kind of way too hard at the beginning, but at least you would meet your target? Or were you still running the early portions thinking, this is still going to be like a 7-hour run, so I've got to just pace it steady? What was your tactic there?
For me, it was about, certainly in the early stages, it was definitely about, I've got 7 hours, at least 7 hours to do. So it had to be a pace that I knew I could sustain, particularly because that first section's a bit undulating and got that big hill in it. I would say once I'd got to the top of the hill on that first section, I certainly made a more effort to run quicker at that point, to give me the best chance of getting that time. And once we got onto the road, and people were saying if you keep running, you'll get it. Undoubtedly, I notched it up a little bit to make sure I did get it. But it was all, I felt, within what I was not putting myself in the red zone at all, because knowing that if I did get it, I've still got 5 hours to go, sort of thing,
What do you think?
But I think that's about, again, getting a good nutrition going into that run, which then mentally made, I was mentally ready for doing it, because I didn't need to worry about eating. I knew I wasn't going to fall apart. It was kind of that all helped, I think, into getting onto the run. What you do on the bike is critical.
Of course it is. Of course, is when you see people who maybe don't run as well as they think they should, it's quite easy to look at the runners being the problem, isn't it? I need to increase my running or improve my speed or whatever it is. But as you've just said, if you've been on your bike for 7-8 hours before, it could well be that the problem lies with the bike riding and not actually with the running as such. What do you think, if you'd have not met your goal, if you'd have been 3 minutes the wrong side of that bell, how would that have affected you, and what do you think mindset, and how would the rest of the race have gone? What do you predict would have been your feelings and your thoughts and your sort of?
It's interesting that, because I think I spent a couple of the weeks before, I spent a lot of time doing the imagery of, if you're successful, what does that look like, and if it's not successful, what does that look like, and is it genuinely not successful? I mean, it could have been 11:01, and I wouldn't have done the high course. It could have, what I mean? And it's like, well, that's not successful. It just means you missed it by a minute. And I think I kind of played through, how do you talk about that? How do you say that to your friends, your family that have made all this effort to come up there? And you sort of, I mean, you kind of just have to conceptualize it, which is, to be honest, they don't care whether you do the high route or the low route, but in your head, it's a massive thing, and so, but I did go through that, and I think for me, Celtman offers you a beautiful low run. Okay, I mean, it's challenging, it's stunning. It's not like, and I don't want to diss Norseman, but I did Norseman and I didn't make the cutoff. And basically I ran around an industrial estate, quite kind of thing, for and it was almost, the finish was a different place. It was a real disappointment to me. Whereas Celtman, you all get the same finish, and they describe it as you doing the low run, not an easy run, and it's equally as beautiful. It takes you around, and it's equally as desolate. It takes you around the back of the attack. You wouldn't want to be out there on your own. So it's a tough run. It's not, and so in my mind, it was like, well, it's not a disaster, and it couldn't be a disaster. I might have missed, and I knew I was only going to miss it by a couple of minutes if I missed it. It wasn't going to be 20 minutes or an hour or something like that. So, I did mentally prepare myself for that, because it genuinely was, I was that close. It genuinely was an option that I didn't get it. But so I did just mentally prepare both sides of it.
And luckily you didn't need to face that, which is good. And then obviously going on to that high route, and I've seen some of the photos and the video of that sort of section particularly. I don't think people would perhaps, because it's a triathlon and most of it's in well-managed locations and it's very safe, and as people like Bob Babbitt often say, it's more like a catered workout, really. It's quite safe these days, and it's still a big achievement. But when we see the photos and the video of the parts of the high route, you really are out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, obviously there's spectacular scenery, but it is proper, almost scrambling territory, isn't it? It's so rocky and so steep and quite dangerous. So I presume for first sections you are hiking rather than running.
Oh yes, definitely, I mean, the first section, undoubtedly you're hiking. I mean, I take my hiking poles, my walking poles with me to get up that sections. And it's literally like a 1,000-meter climb, basically straight up, and then you run along the ridge, which is like you say, it's very rocky, it's very windy. I mean, we had the cloud come down on us, and we were jackets and full jackets and hats and gloves and everything on. You cannot take it. You can only take it seriously because you've got to carry the right kit, because genuinely you will be in a mess up there if something went wrong. You know, so but again, you know, it's kind of my territory. I do a lot of, you know, fell running, mountain running. So, you know, me and the guy that I was with, we just trotted along, you know, not fast. And again, it's not about doing anything fast at this point or doing anything stupid, you know, because, you know, you've got to stay upright and, you know, but it is very, very rocky and very wild. And they have the mountain rescue guys up there, which is great. You know, they can sort of, you know, they're the marshals up there. But the first time I did it, we went up to recce it, and you know, I had my map and I'd sort of got the course, and I'm sort of stood at the top of this gully looking down, going, it's a triathlon. They're definitely not going to put us down that gully, you know. And then I looked at the map again, you know, and I was like, God, they really are going to put us down that gully. You know? And it was genuinely right. Okay, this is pretty serious. So,
and then obviously, you know, towards the end of the run, you've got a short section where you're kind of running a bit of a lap of the village and coming back in. What's it like at that point? And you know, are there any spectators? I know perhaps not this year, but what's the finish experience like?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you run off the road. So you come off the trail and hit the road, and then you run into Torridon. And the finish is about a quarter of a mile down the road, and they stick you off down this, you know, left-hand turn. And I mean, at that point, there's some expletives going, I can assure you, you know. And that for me is probably the toughest part of the race, because I just want it over, you know. And you've got to run all the way to the lock edge, and I'm like, what is going on here, you know? And it just messes with your head. And you know, the guy I was with, Kenny, is just like, no, it's all right. You've got to go to the lock edge. Just keep coming, you know. And he was quite, you know, he's quite positive. But I was cursing and swearing at that point. And then you do the whole of along the edge. You go past the finish line where you can see it. You know, you have to do another sort of kilometre. But the finish line is you know, it's unique, to be honest. There's the guys that run it are there. It's an inflatable Celtman. And this is what I love about the race. You know, it's so unassuming, really, and you literally cross the line and it's a fist bump with the guy, and that's it. And there's not, you know, there's a few people there because the race finishes over potentially, you know, a 6 or 7 hour period. People are coming and going all the time. It's not like an Ironman finish at all. You know, it literally is. You know, you yourself, you've done it. You know, you've done it. You know, fist bump and sort of move on, really. But and they do the t-shirt ceremony the following day, so it's not like everybody's sort of there having to wait around, you know, because everybody, you know, people are, as I say, it's such a long time, and you know, people want to get home, get showered, get fed and stuff like that. So pretty much everybody goes home and comes back the following day.
So there's no cash bonus, there's no cash prize, there's no
nothing,
trophy.
no.
Is it a medal?
No medal.
There's literally a t-shirt.
It's the t-shirt. And I think the beauty about it is the top 3 guys get the t-shirt, and that's it. You know,
but it's and as you say, that's part of the allure of it. It doesn't draw egos as such. It's very much about survival and camaraderie and personal achievement, isn't it? And obviously for the majority of people, just having pride in that t-shirt, and it is just a simple reward, isn't it? You know, probably costs between 10 and 20 quid a t-shirt or something with the printing and everything else. But obviously to be able to achieve the blue one and know that anybody that knows anything about Celtman or Norseman, if they see the black Norseman t-shirt or if they see the blue Celtman t-shirt, they would know what you've been through, and it's kind of like a band of brothers type of thing, isn't it? So that's I know for most of us that's reward in itself, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And then for me, that's what the race is about. You know, there's no there's no age groups, there's nothing. I mean, it literally is the top 3. And this time, I think because of COVID, it wasn't even an awards ceremony. You know, it was like, where's first, where's third? Oh, I'm here, well done. You know, you know, and it was that, really. But so you know, and it is special.
What do you think's next then, as far as those races go? Do you think you do Celtman again, or is there any other ones in the series that you fancy, or another sort of triathlon in that vein, or do you fancy something different now?
Yeah, I think Celtman's one of the races that I'd never say never, because it's just very, you know, it's just very special to me. So I would never say never. Unfortunately, the times get tougher and tougher, and I get older and older. But you know, I quite like to keep going, because I'm the only one now in my age group, if you can say, that's got the 2 blue shirts. You know, and it's like, You know.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, I did look at one the other day, which was in Siberia, Siberia, and I was like,
Okay.
oh, I must talk to Phil about that one.
Yeah. Is that skiing as well, is it?
Yeah, I think they say that the temperatures in that one are even colder than Celtman, so I'm not so sure, but it
That's
does
going to
look
be a challenge.
spectacular without a doubt.
Yeah. Give me plenty of notice if you choose that one.
Yeah.
Take some research.
I mean, the other one that I would consider, I think, is Swiss Man, and then I've kind of ticked all three, but I don't know. Again, it's the logistics of some of these races is just very complicated, so just have to make sure it's right, really.
So, final thoughts then. Who's going to enjoy Celtman? What sort of person should go and give it a try, and what they're going to get out of doing it when they finish it?
I think somebody that likes a challenge, you know, undoubtedly. I think I think for me, it's somebody that likes, you know, the remote location. It is a race. I mean, the top guys this year went under 11 hours for the first time ever. I think the bike, for people that are good cyclists, you know, would absolutely love it, because it's just an absolute dream for a you know, a good cyclist to do that. I think they've just got to be very comfortable running off road, because it's not a trail, it is genuinely a mountain, you know. But that in itself brings the challenges, and you know, I think it somebody that just loves being in those fairly remote condition, you know, remote areas, really, that likes a true race. You know, there's going to be no drafting. It's all about you, and what you can do, you know, to get to the finish, really. You do need support crew, and I know that's a bit of a challenge for some.
Yeah, you said it's all about you, but obviously you've had to put a team together. Roughly how many people did it take to get you round? You know, what's the sort of the requirement?
I mean, this time around it was 3 for me, but I think I could 2 is good, and some people even do it with just 1.
Okay.
But it actually becomes probably equally as hard for the 1 as it is for the person that's doing the full race, you know, because they've got to follow you around, then they've got to run, then they've got you getting in and out of transitions, you know, so it's equally as hard for them. So I definitely say you probably need 2 people to do it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, huge well done. As you know, we're chuffed with your results, and the fact that you actually achieved your A goal of getting that blue T-shirt is fantastic. And let's hopefully move on to some new challenges. But we're letting you have 2 weeks off, aren't we, first, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that. No, and you know, I couldn't. I mean, you know, the training plan was fantastic. You know, I think to get me to that stage with the best chance in the world of getting that blue T-shirt, you know, it made all the difference in the world, without a doubt.
Yeah, although you did cause some stress. Was it a text or an email about 3 days before? I've got these 2 aero helmets I'm thinking of wearing. And I'm thinking, well, obviously in an ideal world, it probably would be a bit quicker, but having trained without them and then suddenly thinking, oh yeah, but this might help me get that blue T-shirt, you're obviously thinking, oh, maybe I should get it. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, this is great, isn't it? You know, 3 days before, why couldn't this friend have offered you them like 3 months before or whatever? So we decided, obviously,
that's exactly what it is. It's like anything that helps me potentially get a quicker time I want. But you're right. I mean, I didn't use them, but and I had time on my hands, and you know, it's a dangerous time, isn't it, that week before, without a doubt.
Yeah, ultimately, because you're getting nervous and a little bit anxious about whether you'll hit your goal, and you'd kind of take anything, wouldn't you, to make that chance a little bit higher. But no, I think we agreed it probably wasn't the right time to be trying these new helmets out. But,